Hey everybody, welcome. Check out our fancy new layout. Hey, I worked probably too hard on this, way harder than is really necessary. Not only are we super excited to be here, we're really excited to be here with a guest. Guest, yes. The it the camera flips it, and I'm trying to like make sure I'm pointing the correct direction here. Hey, this is I'm gonna go ahead and Frostbite. What's up, my dude? Hey, glad you're here. Um, I'm gonna introduce him by all of his names. Over here is Kevin. Oh, Newsom, right? Kevin Newsom.
That's right.
Yeah, Kevin Newsom, aka the Legend of Zyro, aka Zyro. Zyro is joining us today because we're going to be talking Legend of Zelda lore, and he's a lore master. I did want to make sure to use his actual name, Kevin Newsom, because not only is he a top-notch streamer under Legend of Zyro, he is an author. He
That's
has
right.
some Legend of Zelda and other type of fanfics as well as actual published books and whatnot that you can go check out on what is that website, by the way, Zyro?
Well, it's at kevinnewsom.com,
Yeah.
KEVENNEWSOME.com is where you can find out all my writing stuff. I have 4 novels that are completely independent, and I almost quit writing completely. So I decided to write Legend of Zelda fan fiction, see if it would be fun and I could save my writing career. Lo and behold, it was the only thing I've ever won an award with. So that was a lot of
He is
fun.
literally an award-winning Legend of Zelda writer, guys. We
I am
we
the
we picked the right
writer of
guy.
the only. I'm the author of the only Legend of Zelda fan fiction on Wattpad to have won an award.
That's what I'm talking about, y'all. So he was clearly the guy that we wanted to bring in, as well as I met Zyro because he's doing he was thinking of doing a doctorate thesis. Is that what it was?
I'm working on my D-Min in 21st Century Ministry, and it is no longer a plan. It is 100% go that I am
Nice.
doing my dissertation on digital missions.
So this is super cool. So, digital missionaries out there, get in touch with Zyro here. He'd love to chat with you. A lot of cool stuff going on. But hey, before we start podcasting here, we usually try and chat with you guys a little bit. And Fox has a discussion question for us today. Fox, what is our discussion question today?
All right. Like I said, this has nothing to do with Zelda or anything we would ever really talk about. I have a real life advice question that I want to hear you guys' take on, and it might just be a real simple answer. But you know how places coffee, it's specifically a coffee shop for this one. You go and if you buy, X number of coffees or X number of drinks, they'll punch the card and then you get a free one.
Yes.
Let me pitch you the situation. Every time I go, I have a standard tip per drink I buy, every single time. When I get that free one, should I still feel obligated to tip? It's a reward for being a loyal customer, and I want to make sure you're very clear. I tip every single time. I appreciate them. They're there for me. It's great. But when I get to that free drink, should I still feel obligated to tip, therefore not making it a free drink anymore?
Okay.
Thus removing a large part of
Let's see what the Bible has to say about that.
I didn't know the Bible talked about tipping your barista.
Oh, it does very clearly. No, Fox. Here's the reality of the matter. Tipping is not part of the cost. Tipping is a recognition that our country has allowed us to underpay these workers, and therefore we are doing what we can to help supplement that income a little bit. There's an irony in that, in as much as our country allows us to underpay them because they are allowed tips, and there's this weird cyclical thing that
it's a self
right, and it sucks, and there should be a way that we can go in and tell people, hey, stop doing that, just start paying these people money,
pay a living wage.
But but that doesn't change because you have free drink. So here, but here's what I will say. It has happened to me that the only thing I have on me is my card, and I pull up, and
typically true for me.
I have that free drink, and there's no way for them to charge me. there is therefore no
True.
way for me to be able to tip.
Hmm.
And I have actually asked one time, like, is there a way I can tip you? And the response I got was, it wouldn't be worth the tip that you gave me.
I see.
It wouldn't
Now,
be worth, like,
I want to
the
be
time.
clear. I want to clear my name and anybody's opinion here. I still do when that situation doesn't arise, which it does sometimes, but most of the time I will typically have some change or a $1 or $2, whatever I have. I still do. I just want to be clear there. I feel like it's a specific situation.
No,
You know?
the truth here is that Fox is wondering, when can I not give people money? Like, at what?
Well, that's
what
absolutely
point
true.
do
That's true
can
for
I
me most
just
of the time.
keep all my money for myself and not give it
yeah.
to anybody else?
Yeah, obviously.
that's
That's what I'm now, I don't think the Bible says anything about that either.
Right,
So
yeah, nothing.
how am I
No,
supposed to
nothing
know?
about money in the Bible.
I don't really think so. All I know is that some of the kings of Israel had lots of it, and therefore it's a good thing because
there's that, like,
I haven't read it.
the meme or whatever going around. I guess you call it a meme. The if you idolize them, you misunderstood the premise, and it's talking about, like, the Joker and Tyler Durden or whatever else. Like,
Tyler Durden.
Yeah, if you idolize them, then
College dorm room poster movies.
exactly.
Tony.
A big one for me are the guys who watched Reservoir Dogs, listened to that whole section about tipping, and were like, yeah, you know what? Yeah, that makes sense. Have you seen Reservoir Dogs, Zyro?
No, I've not seen that one.
Is it Steve Buscemi who does that? There's a point
He's
in
the
which-
one who's like trying to say I shouldn't have to tip.
Right. And Steve Buscemi has, like, this big long monologue about why he doesn't tip, about why tipping is stupid and nobody should tip at all for any reason, and, big long thing. And there's just, like, a genre of people who heard this. What they're really trying to do is say that Steve Buscemi's character is a bad person. Like Steve Buscemi's specific Mr. Pink, I think he is Mr. Pink.
He's Mr. Pink,
is not even among these criminals, he is not a good person.
Yeah, they're trying. Yeah, they're all criminals, but he's the bad one.
Meanwhile, every civilized country in the world except ours is like listening to this saying, "Yeah, you're right. This is spot on. He's the good guy."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man.
All right, I will continue to not give them my money.
Yes, that's the moral.
I'll take the drink and drive off without paying it all.
That's the moral
how I
of
think
this story. Absolutely.
Just the next time, tip twice.
Oh, hey, that's a good idea. Double the tip
Interesting.
the next time.
That's fair.
I like that one. I think I'm gonna start doing that, Zyro. Good call. Good call on that. I don't know what it is. It probably is, like, I have to admit, it probably is the selfishness in me that makes me. It's because I feel like a good person when I do this, but I genuinely get, like, pleasure from handing them my card and say, "Here's the card," and put a tip on that. Like, here's the make sure you add that tip to it. And I don't know why, but I always feel like I'm like, you're welcome for that $1 I'm giving you.
You're welcome. You
you
can pay rent now because of this $1.
I
shouldn't
don't
be
do that. I'm the exact opposite. I don't want them to see me put the tip on it because I'm afraid I'm going to get judged for not doing 25%.
For me, so this is like at a coffee shop though. I do a lot of the drive-throughs. And so, like, there's not a chance where they hand you a receipt and you get to secretly write a tip and whatever. They just swipe it and give the card back to you, and therefore, like, I have to tell them, otherwise they won't get one. Or whenever I have cash, that's another time that I'll, like, make sure that I stuff cash in there. But again, this is what makes me feel more and more like this has to be the selfishness in me, because I like it even more when I have cash, because there's that, like, visible part of me reaching out the window and be like, "Oh, I can't quite reach. Can you move the jar closer to me, please?" Like,
yeah,
I believe the Bible has something to say about that too, Dad.
yeah.
It's that classic episode of Seinfeld where George goes to tip the guy, and the guy happens to turn around at the exact moment, and so George doesn't get the credit for tipping him, and tries to take it back out and put it back in, and then gets kicked out of the store. And Seinfeld just is just the truth of human existence, you know.
That sounds very, that sounds very, very Seinfeld. That is, yeah. Well, hey, chat, we're going to get started with a podcast here in just a second. We're going to be starting a little bit early today because we want to make sure we have enough time to talk to Zyro here. So for those of you in there, here's the way it's going to be working. If you've never watched a podcast with us, is we have this front part here to chat with you guys and to, be interactive. Once we start this podcast, we are not really going to be interacting with the chat because this is a podcast that we hopefully someday will be putting out into the public on an RSS feed or whatever else. That being said, if you enjoy the Nerdy Gritty and you want to be able to listen to it in podcast form, the only reason we don't is because we can't afford our RSS feed right now. So we always encourage you to head over to SavePointMinistries.com and go to the gift section, and you can help contribute to the Nerdy Gritty here. But that being said, you can always watch this on YouTube afterward. The VODs go to YouTube afterward. And if you do go to your podcatcher and look up the Nerdy Gritty, you will find like 150 episodes of past stuff from when we could afford an RSS feed, from we weren't poor people.
It's more like 250.
250. A lot of episodes.
Just go to Anchor.
What is Anchor?
A free podcasting platform.
All the free podcasting platforms I have found are like a maximum of half an hour per thing.
Nah, my podcast goes longer than that. I'm on Anchor.
Really?
Yeah, I'll send you.
Right.
Let's look into that. Yeah,
I will have to look into that. Yes, very much so. Okay. But yeah, so all that to say that we are going to be interacting with the chat, but please stick around and please comment in the chat as if we were going to respond, because after the podcast, we go back, we look through all the responses and whatnot, and we try to address everything that was conversed about. With that being said, are you guys ready to do a podcast here?
Go.
Cool. Okay. Actually, this just occurred to me. I don't know. How do we, I guess, you know what? This is getting saved on Twitch. And so that will be the way that we record this podcast. That's how that goes today. So, because usually Fox and I record our audio separately.
All
so
right.
we won't have to do, we won't have to
need
do a
to do
countdown or anything like that. We're just going to get started today.
Cool.
All right. I will do the pre-intro today. You guys ready?
Yep.
Here we go. Today on the Nerdy Gritty, let's learn about the Legend of Zelda timeline with Legend of Zyro.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Nerdy Gritty, where we delve deep into the details of pop culture. I am your hunky, sexy fish man, Fox,
and I am your legendary hero, Dez. Man, what dang it? What's his name in Breath of the Wild?
I forget his name.
The
Prince
Prince of the Zorons.
Sidon.
Prince Sidon. Yeah. Man, the internet sure liked him for a while, huh? The internet was.
Oh, they've moved on from Sidon. They're all about Ganondorf now.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Well, Matt Mercer Ganondorf is no, not Matt Mercer, but what's his name? Other famous.
That narrows it down. Nolan North.
Nope, the other one.
Troy Baker.
Troy Baker.
It is Troy Baker?
I'm fairly certain Troy Baker is Ganondorf now.
No, it's Mercer.
Mercer. I got it right the first time.
You said it right. Oh, man. Anyway, hey, as you may have noticed, there is another voice jumping in here. We have a very special guest. Kevin Newsom, a.k.a. Legend of Zyro, a.k.a. Zyro, is here with us to talk to us about the Legend of Zelda, the sacred timeline. The true timeline of Legend of Zelda. We'll be getting to that in a little bit here. I do have a question first, though, because when I had heard about this before, it was kind of a fan-made, fan-agreed thing. But you had told me recently, Zyro, that this is official. There are official books now saying this is the timeline that joins all the games together. Is that correct?
Yes. In 2011, when Skyward Sword was released, Nintendo released a Hyrule Historia, in which contained the official timeline from Nintendo. Man,
the cool thing about this, and again, we'll get into this more later, is when you were telling me that Link to the Past, not Link to the Past, Ocarina of Time. Ocarina of Time, right, which in and of itself was a game about traveling through time, now in the lore actually breaks the timelines into 3 different timelines, right?
Yes.
That's fascinating. I love it. Well, again, we'll get into all that later. We'll talk about that more. For now, though, there's also a very different, interesting thing to discuss. I don't know if you guys were aware of this, but the United Kingdom, the UK, just recently blocked the Microsoft acquisition of Activision, right? Activision?
Yeah,
Blizzard.
Activision Blizzard.
Blizzard.
King. Yeah.
So UK was like, no, that will. I don't know why monopoly. I guess like this thing of like you'll be too powerful. Yeah.
Yeah, it was essentially the UK's version of the FCC.
Yeah.
Not the FCC,
yeah.
but the
So, in response, as a blue player in Magic would say, in response, Brad Smith, a person representing Microsoft, said that this is going to be I'm looking for the exact quote right here. Whatever it is, he gave like a weird sort of veiled threat saying that this was going to be a terrible decision for the UK. And he even alluded to like, this was like Brexit really bad, like specifically trying to poke the political side of things here. So we're asking the question today, hey, what can Microsoft do to get back at the UK? So what should they do to kind of live up to this little veiled threat that they've got going on here? What do you think, Fox? What are they going to do to make sure that they really stick it to the man?
I mean, the obvious answer first is the metric system is no longer allowed in any Microsoft published game. You'll always everything will be in feet and inches, and they'll never know how far they're moving or how long. They'll have to. Everything's in miles. They'll never know. They'll have to do the math, and it makes it. Sorry, do the maths, and it'll be much.
No
be,
more.
Oh, sorry.
Only
I'm sorry.
math.
Math is now a singular in all. There is one category, and it is math.
Yes.
Microsoft Word self-corrects everything to American English.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah. If you add the U in armor or anything like that, it's like, excuse me, this is spelled wrong.
This is wrong. It cannot be changed back.
It autocorrects it even when you try and go back and put an S in realized instead of Z. It just
if you try to change it self-deletes the program.
No, here's what's going to happen. Ready? One day, people are going to wake up and they're going to look to their wall, and it's just going to be a solid wall. And in their confusion, they're going to go outside, and every building, solid walls. Because Microsoft has uninstalled Windows on everything.
Okay, all right. It's like, where is he going with this? What are you talking about? Solid wall?
They came to the point where they uninstalled Windows on the buildings, and you can't even look outside anymore. They have purchased every building in the UK and just walls. That's it. No more Windows.
I thought he's going to some sort of a simulation, life is a simulation kind of thing run by Windows. Now, here's what I think they should do. Everybody's going to run their Windows updates, and when they wake up in the morning, it's going to be Windows 95.
Oh, no! Vista.
Push Windows 95 or Windows Vista back on every machine.
Oh, man. That's going to be hilarious. That might be the winner right there. People just being like, hey, you have a necessary update. It's like, okay, that's fine. Click, install, and then it's just Windows Vista. And they're like, no!
There's your security threat right there.
Oh man, that's what he said. He said that this was like a threat to the like business in general in Britain, and like it's setting this terrible precedent or whatever. Man, that's weird. Okay, oh man. Okay, so bottom line is that no, you know what's going to happen? Microsoft, or it's not Microsoft, England is going to go to coronate. Is coronate the
coronate? Yeah, make a verb out of it.
Yeah, they're going to go to coronate the new king and queen. And unfortunately, Microsoft will have purchased the entire, the entire monarchy, and Activision King is going to be the new monarchy there. Because King is the actual. Okay.
Yeah, good one.
Yep, that's right.
Got him.
All right, y'all. Hey, you ready to get in some news? Fox, what's going on in the world today?
Well, some real big news. As of 2 days ago, as of recording this, today's Wednesday. It was Monday evening. As of I guess midnight Tuesday morning, I suppose. Uh, the what is it? The Writers Guild of America
Yeah.
has officially gone on strike against the after failed negotiations with the Alliance of Motion Picture and Television Producers. So essentially what this means is that any show, any production basically that has writers that are a part of the Writers Guild of America will go on hiatus. Anything that's not written can't be written. They are disallowed from writing because of the strike. This is a big deal. It's a lot that is written about, that is writing. The companies that they are striking against include, Netflix, Amazon, Apple, Disney, Discovery, Warner, NBC, Paramount, and Sony. So essentially, pretty much everybody. Most of your streaming services.
Was Warner Brothers a part of that?
Discovery Warner, yeah.
Okay, never mind. I was wondering
including so anything on HBO, anything on Netflix, anything on Prime, anything on Apple Plus, anything on Disney Plus, anything on Peacock.
For a second, I was thinking this was going to be DC's chance to scoop up.
You
some
have
solid
to like
writers
our
and
shows
whatnot.
and movies because they're the only shows and movies.
Man, that's crazy. Whenever I hear about things like this, I have this moment of it's millionaires and billionaires fighting back against people who just want a little bit of a bigger cut of this, please. If we could please just get a little more money, that would be really, really nice for us. I understand that some of the writers are also millionaires, but not
very few.
Not the majority.
Very, very few, if any. In
fact, this has happened before. This happened about 15 years ago.
Right, and that was a big deal. It lasted, if I remember, over 3 months, maybe even longer than that.
Yeah, and it killed a few shows.
Yeah, killed a few shows. It's the reason why some shows, like The Office's first season, is 6 episodes because of the strike, which kind of helped because it gave them time once they came back to re-examine the show and kind of focus it, which is why the first couple of seasons after that are a little different feeling and also incredibly good. I think they had some time to slow down there, but this is not the first time this has happened. This is actually almost a preemptive strike from the Writers Guild, as I've been reading about this, because essentially what they're asking / demanding is better writing for streaming services, better pay for their streaming services, because essentially when you sign a contract, that contract is what matters. That it doesn't matter. So if you're in the middle of a contract and then the entire landscape of writing shifts in some fashion to a different, if it's no longer that you're writing for TV and you're writing for a streaming service, well, then they can do whatever they want because you don't have a contractual obligation to pay the same thing, which means their pay was reduced. All this, you can actually go on. I'm on a Polygon.com right now. Their article about it has specifically the WGA, the Writers Guild of America, somebody uploaded the negotiations that they here's what we demanded, here's what they countered with, which was brilliant because there's a bunch of stuff that they literally just ignored and rejected outright. And it really puts you in the corner of the Writers Guild if you read through this. Unless you're David Zaslav and you make $250 million and think making a cent less than that is
how dare you?
Is oppression.
I am speaking from ignorance here. I don't know what their contracts are. I don't know what it's like to be a member of the Writers Guild of America. I don't know what it's like to own and operate a streaming service. What I do know is that when you hear of strikes like a teacher's strike, you should support teachers. Support your teachers 100%, yes, but also you recognize that this is a complicated situation because cities don't have a large budget. Education part of cities don't have a large budget. A lot of it comes down to the people who are voting and what things, what people are it's real complicated.
Right.
This feels less complicated to me. This feels so much like you have so much money. Is it that hard to pay these people a little bit more? Is it really that difficult? I do get that there is there are a lot of TV shows, out there, and streaming services has compounded that to an even higher degree.
Yeah.
But you're making so much money. Again, admission speaking from ignorance, but I feel like it shouldn't be that complicated. I don't know.
I mean, there is a difference now. When it was traditional television, what your goal was ratings, and so it was trying to get as many people to watch the show, which means more people would be seeing ads, which means the ad space would be more valuable and they could charge more for that ad time. Now it's literally just trying to get as many people to subscribe to your streaming service. Like it's a whole different ball game. Because you don't have ads generally. I mean, you do have ads in some tiers on, you know, certain streaming services, but like Netflix doesn't, as far as I know, doesn't have an ad supported version. So for them specifically, it's trying to just get people subscribed, and also they have to, like, it's a much harder ball game they have to produce a certain amount of content, a certain variety of content. There's just so many more factors and different factors that it does change. At the end of the day, though, even with teachers and like writers, it's all just about laborers' rights or laborers, you know, compensation for their work. And yeah, I do agree that sure, the city is going to have a limited budget always because they don't just get to print money. So even if they wanted to, which I would hope a city would want to pay their teachers a whole lot, or a state or whatever,
Right.
You know, it feels as though you could reduce the CEO's pay of Netflix or whatever by a few $1 million, and pay the people that you are relying on. Yeah. Oh yeah, that was the other thing. Now that I say that, is protection against AI involvement in writing was the other big issue at hand. I'm really curious to see how it goes, because I feel like it's going to be a pretty big bellwether for AI in the future.
This is going to be a future conversation that Fox and I are going to have on an episode of what ways can AI be used that is not also going to take away work, and, you know, supplemental AI, how can that look and whatever else.
Could it improve the gaming industry?
Yeah. Because again, just a little thing that he and I have tossed back and forth is the ability for an AI just to write secondary dialogue when you're walking around and a character says, like, the example I use was Hogwarts Legacy, is the main character, whenever you're walking around, if you walk past a certain thing, they will always have the same line of dialogue, like, those rocks have seen better days, or you know, right. Let's see what Merlin has for me this time. And it's the exact same line of dialogue every time. If an AI wrote and performed all this dumb secondary dialogue, but they wrote millions of versions of it, that could really help a game and the immersion of a game, but not take away from the actual writers and things like. Anyway, we're getting ahead of ourselves here, though.
Yeah, we'll talk about that at some point.
Yeah. Hey, do you guys know who the Pinkertons are?
Yeah, I've played Red Dead Redemption 2, Des.
The Pinkertons? Yeah.
Security firm?
Yeah.
It's Weezer's second album.
If I told you that the Pinkertons raided somebody's house, what would kind of come to your mind there? Like, what reasons, what thoughts are you having at this point?
I think I read that article.
Yeah, I've seen the headline. I don't know what it's about, but I still think about just like, these are cowboys being raided by the law.
No cowboys here, only Magic the Gathering YouTubers, because an MTG YouTuber's home was just raided by the actual literal Pinkertons because Wizards of the Coast sicked the Pinkertons on them. I still can't say that without laughing to myself. That's the wildest thing to say in 2023. So there's a YouTuber known as Dan Old School MTG Cannon. So Old School MTG is the YouTuber. He ordered March of the Machine product. March of the Machine is the most recent release of Magic the Gathering. It has 1 month after its release is coming out another release that is just a supplemental. It's another like 50 cards that are supposed to add to the thing called March of the Machine Aftermath. It hasn't released yet. It's actually like 6 weeks, whatever. It hasn't released yet, but it will release very quickly. He ordered March of the Machine product and was delivered March of the Machine Aftermath product.
Okay.
So he ordered this from Wizards of the Coast and was accidentally given March of the Machine Aftermath product. And his thought was, obviously YouTube hits. Like, yeah, I got to record my opening of this. So he records himself opening March of the Machine Aftermath. Now,
SWAT members come breaking through the skylight.
Right. Yeah. Smoke grenade.
Instead of sending a cease and desist, instead of sending a sternly worded email saying, hey, don't do this, please take that video down or we'll have to take legal action, instead of the million things that they could have done and gotten away just fine, and everyone would have said, that makes sense that they did that. No. Wizards of the Coast instead sends the private security firm, the Pinkertons, which are still alive today, to his door. Apparently, they started pounding on his door, threatening that he could be arrested, that he could go to jail. His wife ended up crying and like hiding, and he opened the door, and they're like, "We're here for the cards," and they came in, and they're like,
cards.
"Yeah," they're like, "We need those cards," and he's like, "Okay, here you go." Here.
Oh man, what an overreaction.
100% that. And so this is just like the most recent issue in a slew of struggles that Wizards of the Coast is having. I want to know at what point did somebody say, you got to send the Pinkertons? And the person who he told that to said, yeah,
sure, okay.
Yeah, that's true.
It was an intern. It was an intern.
An intern who had just gotten done replaying Red Dead Redemption.
The intern looks up and is like, wait, like the Pinkertons?
Wait a minute. Yeah. Like with the handlebar mustaches?
But yeah, so this is a real thing that happened and a real thing that that they have done. And so Wizards of the Coast is now scrambling once again. They have said, oh, we are going to be sending him replacement product as well as free product when Aftermath releases. But everybody's response is, you could have just not done it in the first place.
This is a forced error. This is a self-inflicted error.
This is a staff meeting when a text could have done.
Yes, exactly.
Hey, by the way, you can keep it. Just take down the video and wait till this date, then put it up. Like,
yeah.
It's that simple.
Or even,
sorry for the inconvenience. Here's a booster box.
If you want to get a even like further, just send him a pre what's the, like, with all the, it already has the shipping information on it. A box that's pre-labeled box. Send it to him and say, hey, put everything back in here and ship it back to us, please. All you have to do is give it to your post office and we will send you a couple of boxes. It's our mistake. We're sorry. We'll send you a couple of boxes in
send it back, and then we will once again send it to you on the same day. Like, you get the exact same product.
Right. But no, it's got to be the Pinkertons. Man,
man.
The real question is what is Wizards of the Coast going to do next? What is going to be their next adventure?
Didn't they like come in with their guns and everything?
Yes. Yeah.
So you got to think these guys are sitting in the van. And they're like, oh, we gotta just get a pack of cards. It's like, and the driver's like, hey, I got an idea.
Yeah, do you feel like the actual guard, like the people sent like those specific Pinkertons? Do you feel like, wait, what are we here for? What? This is what?
These guys.
Embarrassing.
In defense of the Pinkertons, which might be the weirdest thing I've ever said in my life, in defense of the Pinkertons, they only get brought in certain situations, and therefore, if they are called, it's already a 10. Like, I'm guessing in their brains.
Well, it's a private security firm, so.
Right? If they're getting a call, it's a 10, and they need to go in with a 10.
They're gonna have certain
that's my orders, guess, at least
operations, you know.
But no, it was some YouTuber
anyway,
with magic
ridiculous
cards.
When I think of a wizard, I think of somebody who's fairly intelligent. I really think they need to change their name to like Barbarians of the Coast or something, because they're not really living up to
Bards of the Coast. Because we got charisma, but no wisdom, no intelligence over here, baby.
Mm.
Oh man. All right. Well, that's what's going on in the world of news. Hey guys, are you ready to get down to the nerdy gritty?
I believe so.
Well, y'all, as said before, we are here with The Legend of Zyro because he is a Zelda lore specialist. If you were not here for the pre-show, you didn't hear saying that he is also an author. He has works that he has 4 novels, you said?
That's
4
right.
independently published novels, and then he also has a load of Legend of Zelda fan fiction, some of which have won awards. He is literally an award-winning Legend of Zelda fan fiction writer, and he is also deep in the knowledge of Legend of Zelda lore. He actually streams on Twitch, twitch.tv/Legend of Zyro, if I'm correct. Yes.
That's right.
Twitch.tv/Legend of Zyro, and he talks about all kinds of stuff. He's been streaming some Zelda recently. I was able to catch a couple of his streams talking about Legend of Zelda lore, but like, if you're the type of person who just loves, like genuinely loves podcasts that get into like the most fascinating minutia of things, like I was watching one of his streams and he was talking about like, hey, here's the map from this game and here's the map from this game, and they don't actually match, but actually if you turn this map a little bit and realize that this happened, and like then they suddenly match, they overlap and match again, and here's where this and it was like like it was the coolest thing to listen and like see all this stuff like revealed before my eyes. And so it felt like watching Unsolved Mysteries or something like that. Like, it's just like, whoa, what is happening here? It was super duper cool. So here's what we're going to be doing today. We're basically going to be turning this over to Zyro, who's going to be talking to us from the very beginning, which I believe is Skyward Sword, which is going to be the beginning of this. And he's kind of be talking us through this timeline. As we're going through, Fox and I are going to be interrupting and interjecting with questions.
I've got some questions
and thoughts and whatnot. The most important one though is, where does the Legend of Zelda, was it the 3DX CD one, the CD game, where does that fit into all of this lore?
I'm not familiar with that.
It doesn't. It's one of the ones, like, it's famously one that does not actually fit into the lore yet. So
I think some people try to put it in the lore, but it's not official, and
right.
I don't really pay attention unless it's official.
I don't know if you ever heard of Brian David Gilbert. Have you heard of him before, Zyro? He's a YouTuber, and he used to work for Polygon, and he released a video a while back, like a couple of years ago, that was the entire Legend of Zelda lore, including everything, like no matter what. And it was even some things like this comic book that released in the Nintendo Power, and these like
Zelda Monopoly.
Yeah, Zelda Monopoly. I guess it's all comedic, but it's hilarious. It's really, really good. So with that being said, Zyro, starting with Skyward Sword, take it away, my friend. How does this
Oh work? Gosh, how detailed do you want? How long do you want to go with this?
I think it'd be great to have like an overview, because I've got some questions about Tears of the Kingdom specifically.
Yeah, absolutely. So Skyward Sword officially begins the Zelda timeline, and this is where we get a lot of the history of the rebirth of cycle of Zelda, as the reincarnation, the physical reincarnation of the goddess Hylia. And the whole cycle of the hero and the cycle of the enemy. It all starts in Skyward Sword with Demise and his curse. He kind of curses them to relive this cycle for the rest of eternity, basically. We also get the origins of the Master Sword. Started out as the Goddess Sword and was powered up through the course of the game and became the fully powered Master Sword, and you get some even further backstory, because there's another backstory to Skyward Sword that's told in the lore of Skyward Sword. How like sometime beforehand, Demise had come to power, and Hylia had rallied all of the people groups of the land to come together and to defeat Demise and seal him for a certain amount of time. His seal is being broken, and that's what Skyward Sword is all about, is resealing Demise.
So,
and that's important. That particular point is important, that backstory. So I'll come back to that later on. What's your question?
So as somebody who didn't play Skyward Sword, the goddess Hylia and Demise themselves, like who are these beings? Are these just like, is it kind of one of those things where they're just saying, hey, these are the gods and these are gods fighting, kind of like mythos for a long time, or do they have some sort of like storyline and backstory to them as well?
They do, but that is a really, really interesting question that we're probably going to get back to.
Okay.
So Hylia was basically raised up by the three main goddesses, the creator goddesses, to oversee the land and be the protector of the land. Link was the hero who was brought up to, defend the land as well. So it's all kind of intertwined, and there's some really, really interesting things that are beginning to happen that I think we're going to find out over the next few months that are going to make all of this like really crystal clear. I think I'm really excited. So let me get back to that. Remind me to get back to that.
Yep. Okay.
All right. So the timeline continues. The major games, Minish Cap, Four Swords, just kind of filling out. We get the backstory of the cap through the Minish Cap, the backstory of the Four Swords Adventures. Not Four Swords Adventures later, but the Four Sword and what it does, its power. The enemy Vati, which is the first incarnation of first evil after demise. It was the wizard Vati. These are all games that I haven't really played yet. They're not major console games, so I haven't played a lot of the handheld games.
Yeah.
I played some, but not all of them.
When these games were made, it wasn't until Skyward Sword that they intended for this to be a singular storyline, right? Like all of these games were made individually, and then in retrospect, like, okay, how can we fit all this together?
I think that's kind of what happened is they decided to officially piece it all together on their end after the fact. I don't think they had the timeline in mind when they created it. At least what they did with Ocarina of Time it feels like an afterthought, because you can apply the same logic to basically any game, any of the games, and create timeline splits. So 3 games before Ocarina of Time: Skyward Sword, Minish Cap, and Four Swords, and then we get to Ocarina of Time when we get the timeline split. Are y'all ready to delve into that?
Yes, absolutely. Sure. Yes.
All right. So the timeline split happens at the end of the game. All right. So there's this big battle. Have you played Ocarina of Time?
Yes.
Have you beat Ocarina of Time?
But let's not assume that our listeners / watchers have, though.
Dude, it's a 25-year-old game.
Yeah. No, so spoil it is what I'm saying. Like,
spoilers, but if it's a 25-year-old game, it's like Sixth Sense. If you don't know by now,
readily available on the Switch online system. You can play it. Go play.
Yes.
It.
So the big final battle, like the spoilers, Ganondorf, with the power of the Triforce of power that he has, basically allows his evil to take over, and he transforms into this beast, right? And you have your final battle. All right, so right there is where we're going to see the timeline split. One of 2 things happens. Link wins or Link loses. And that's a split. You have the heroes victorious and the heroes defeated.
So wait, there is a timeline in which Link loses? Like, does that happen in the game itself?
Yes. There is the hero defeated timeline.
Okay.
So at that moment, after Ganon, not beforehand, not while he's Ganondorf, after he's transformed to the beast, if he loses, that's a timeline split.
Okay.
So we'll call that the defeated timeline. Then you have the defeat. The hero is triumphant. He wins. And then there's a split that happens after the fact there. So in Ocarina of Time, Zelda uses the ocarina, actually gives him the ocarina to use to travel back so he can live out his childhood. Mm-hmm. So this is different than what's been going on with the Master Sword. He has been traveling using the Master Sword. So he would plant the Master Sword back in the Temple of Time, and he'd travel back to his childhood. But the timeline that he's traveling back to is concurrent. It continues to progress. So he gets plucked up and moved over here, and then when he comes back, he goes back where he left. Mm-hmm. And he keeps going and gets plucked up and moves over here, and he goes. This allows you to make changes in the past that affect the future. And when he returns to the future, it's also concurrent. So he comes back at the point where he left. and the changes are in place after that point. So that's the time travel with the Master Sword. But at the end of the game, Zelda gives him the ocarina, which he uses to travel back before the events of the game to live out his childhood. And we go all the way, he goes all the way back to before he even met Zelda as a child. And what does he do? He immediately runs to Zelda and warns them about what's happening.
Right.
And that creates a split.
Because if I remember correctly, Ganondorf was the vizier to the king, and
something like that,
yeah, an aide of some sort, and he had this whole plot of betraying the king, and he succeeds in doing so, and then we get the whole like events of the game of Ocarina of Time. But then at the end of the game, once you've defeated it, he travels back in time as Link, and then runs in and warns them all, "Hey, Ganon's a bad guy."
And they arrest him, put him on trial immediately, and the entire events of Ocarina of Time never happened. So that's the third timeline. So you've got child timeline, which is that one. You've got adult timeline, which is the timeline in which he was victorious. He won. And then you got the defeated timeline. Is the one where Link lost. And there's your three timelines.
Okay.
So question, the defeated timeline, is that canonical in Ocarina of Time? Like, is there an ending that Link loses and then it just rolls credits or something like that? Or is that just saying like, hey, there are future games that things are kind of bleak and dark, and we're going to say that that's because Link lost?
Right, exactly. And that's kind of why it feels like they kind of shoehorn this in a little bit after the fact. Because you could apply the same logic to any of the games. What if Link is defeated in this game? Well, does that create another timeline? But officially, this is how they did it. They use Ocarina of Time as the splitting point for all three.
That's fair because it's a game about time travel, so might as well let that be the one that splits time. Yeah.
All right. So which one you want to go down first? We got three timelines.
I've been curious. Where does I love Majora's Mask maybe more than Ocarina of Time just for its weirdness?
Okay, so let's talk about the child timeline then.
Okay,
child timeline is really interesting. So he's traveled back prior to the events of Ocarina of Time. He's living out his childhood. Majora's Mask actually happens immediately after that particular moment. He's grown up a little bit. His horse is a little older, but it is in the child timeline where he travels to another. He travels to Termina, and it's a different land. It's not Hyrule. Following that, in that same timeline, is Twilight Princess, and it's in Twilight Princess we actually get the cutscene where they have arrested and tried to execute Ganondorf from Ocarina of Time.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. That makes sense. Yeah.
It's a botched execution. He winds up being banished to the Twilight Realm instead. And that sets off the events of Twilight Princess. Following that, you have the Four Swords adventure, where Ganondorf is reincarnated again. That keeps happening.
Stop it.
And Vati returns. Vati returns in Four Swords Adventures, and you got both of them. You're having to deal with in that particular one. That's another handheld that I've not played.
Yeah.
All right, so that's the child timeline. If you go over to the adult timeline, so let's see. In the adult timeline, this is the one where he is triumphant. Ganon is defeated, but Link has left.
Where did he go?
Zelda gave him the ocarina. He split. He Marty McFly out of that timeline.
I'm out. Bye.
Deuces.
And that timeline continues without him because he left. Got it?
Yeah.
Sure.
You follow?
Mm-hmm.
There is no hero in the timeline anymore. The hero has left the timeline. And so Ganondorf shows back up, and things go wrong. There's no hero there to be found. And so the goddesses flood Hyrule in order to protect it.
Oh,
and so now we get Wind Waker.
Yeah. That's like that's a Noah moment where
Right.
things are real bad, and so what the deity chooses is to flood the world. All
And
right.
so you get that in the lore of Wind Waker, and they say that there was no hero. The hero didn't show up, and so the goddesses had to intervene.
That makes
Please
sense.
bring 7 of every clean Octorok and 2 of every unclean Deku. Bring your
In that
sentient
timeline, you
boat.
have Phantom Hourglass, which is a direct sequel to that, and then Spirit Tracks, which is another sequel to that, in which they found a new continent to reestablish Hyrule on dry land instead of having to deal with all the islands.
Now,
So
I'm not
that's the adult
familiar
timeline.
with Phantom Hourglass and what was the other one? Dang it,
Spirit Tracks.
Spirit Tracks. But I know they kind of released at the same time, right?
No, they're both
No, you're
individual?
thinking of like the Oracle of Seasons and Oracle
of Ages. That is those are the ones. Yeah,
yeah, that's
Oracle
right.
Oracle of Ages. Are those in the same timeline, same world? Like, because aren't they different games at the same time?
They're in the defeated timeline.
Cool. We'll get to that later then. Cool.
Yeah. So, well, we're basically done with the adult timeline. It's just the 3 games. It's the Wind Waker style games.
Gotcha.
Got it.
That's the adult timeline. And Spirit Tracks is both of those were handhelds. I've played some of Phantom Hourglass. I've not played Spirit Tracks yet. It is on my to-do list. We go over to the defeated timeline, which starts off with Link to the Past. So in the defeated timeline, when the hero's defeated, the sages are the ones who have to work together in order to seal the monster Ganon. So that's the official stance. Link couldn't do it, so the sages do it themselves. They seal him away, and that's where we get to the Link to the Past, where Ganon has been sealed away, and he's trying to break through the seals. Make sense?
Yes. So, question then, leading because Link to the Past is like probably one of my all-time favorite games altogether. Probably my favorite Zelda. As it starts, have already established that the monarchy of whatever sort seems to be antagonistic in some way. Like the moment Link steps out into the world, the knights and the guards or whatever are fighting you. They are enemies that you have to walk past and sneak past. Is there a reason for that? Is there are they saying
the wizard
Aghanim?
Angharum, something like that. I forgot his name.
Yeah, Aghanim, I think is what it was.
Yeah. He's the one that's kind of like pulling the strings. It's kind of like a Jafar moment kind of thing going on.
That makes sense.
And he's the one. He's trying to get Ganon back. He's trying to help break the seals to bring Ganon back.
Got it.
And it's also important to know, once we gotten over into this defeated timelines, the defeated timeline happened after Ganon transformed.
And that's
so
why
in the other timelines, you get Ganondorf pre-transformation, but in this timeline, every occurrence of Ganon, he is in his monster form.
Got it. Yeah, that makes sense. Absolutely. And he's like the big, orc looking guy, boar looking guy in these games.
Yeah. So we get into Link's Awakening, which happens a different land. And there's some spoilers there. I'm not going to go there. If you're not played Link's Awakening, it's an old, really, really old game. You should know by now, but I'm not going to go there. Oracle of Seasons, Oracle of Ages, which ones I've not played. Then you got Link Between Worlds, another one I've not played.
I really enjoyed Link Between Worlds.
Did you?
Yeah.
It uses the exact same map as Link to the Past.
Right.
Except it has the negative world, I suppose it's called.
Dark world.
Right.
Well, no, it's different than the Dark World. It's
Dark world different.
Yeah.
You got the Twilight, Dark, Light, Sacred, and whatever Low Rule is.
Oh, there are so many different worlds. Low Rule? Hold on. Wait, pause. Low Rule? That's
High Rule and Low Rule.
What is Low Rule?
It's like it's the upside down.
And where do we find this? Like what world is Low Rule in?
It's
in Link Between Worlds.
Yeah, it's
that one.
sort of like the negative inverse of High Rule.
Got it.
So I kind of like.
They thought, hey, this has the word high in it. Why not make it low?
Got it.
Think the upside down from Stranger Things.
Yeah.
Ish. Except not quite so dark. It's actual real world kind of thing.
Got it.
So that's Link Between Worlds and Triforce Heroes. And then we get actually at the end of the defeated timeline, we get the original games, Legend of Zelda and Link to the Adventures of Link. And Legend of Zelda, it really makes sense by this time. The world has been through so much, you can't really tell there's anything there. It's just all demolished. And Adventure of Link, they pretty much evacuate and look and establish a kingdom in another land, basically. Their original land is just unrecognizable.
Yeah, Adventure of Link is an interesting game in general. It was not the most popular.
And we know
All
that
right,
by
so you
that
draw
time,
your nice
life to
long
Christ and
horizontal
has the
line
cross.
there. Nice long horizontal line, and put Breath of the Wild.
So Breath of the
It is
Wild.
not. It's not officially in any of the timelines.
Oh.
And it's officially in all of the timelines.
Interesting.
Cool.
So this is just what's like Breath of the Wild is what's going to happen no matter what and all. So if you're a Molinist, it's where, the branch
All right.
converges
Where they
back
all
into
come
like a
merge.
necessary point. Yeah.
Well, there's been the talk is that the because the timelines got so fractured that the goddesses actually intervened again and forced all three timelines to come back together into one.
Interesting. Okay. So do we see evidence of this in Breath of the Wild? Like, can we see things in it that tie all three timelines together?
Absolutely.
Ooh, what kind of stuff?
Absolutely. What do you want to know?
Well, for each one, like what kind of things do we see for each timeline that helps it fit in any of the timelines?
Well, and not just timelines, but games, specific games. Like you've got lots of Twilight Princess references, surprisingly, lots of child timeline kind of references. Like the Arbiter's Grounds, you can find the ruins of the Arbiter's Grounds, the whole Great Plateau area where the ruins of the Temple of Time exist. That's almost perfectly a perfect replication of the Castle Temple of Time from Ocarina of Time.
That's super cool, man.
The castle town around the castle itself is almost a perfect recreation of the castle town in Twilight Princess. You've got goddess statues that you see in Skyward Sword all over the place, including a giant one that a lot of people think is the actual sealed grounds from Skyward Sword. Interesting references to Wind Waker in that Lurelin Village, which is the one that's on the ocean with all the palm trees and stuff like that.
Yeah.
If you were you can zoom out and sort of get this aerial view of it and overlay it with Outset Island in Wind Waker. They're very almost identical in the layout and design of them. It's very, very interesting the amount of details that they put in to connect Breath of the Wild to so many different elements from all of the different games.
I have a question about that kind of thing. The idea of like lore and canonicity is always really interesting to me, especially because nowadays people get kind of up in arms over it, where like in Marvel movies, oh, this character is different, you messed everything up, or you did a bad job. How is it decided in something like that? So for example, you can get Majora's Mask in Breath of the Wild. It obviously doesn't have the same effects,
right,
but you can put it on. You can. So, is there some kind of like how is it decided whether or not that's just a fun little Nintendo thing? They're like, here you go, this is a fun thing you can do, or it's like, oh wait, Majora's Mask is here and it's been depowered. How does this factor? Like how is that decided whether or not it's actually supposed to be a part of like lore, or if it's just Nintendo fun?
It's not actually a part of lore unless Nintendo says it is.
Okay.
Otherwise it's just a theory, and there are theories galore.
I guess that makes sense. That's fair.
Yeah,
Nintendo
theorists are very popular on YouTube.
Yeah. Okay. Well, sure. Okay. That's interesting. That really helps.
Okay.
I actually appreciate that division right there. Like, It's just what we think about it.
I mean, that's comic book, right? That's exactly comic book is it is canon when we say it's canon, and it's not when it's not, and that's it.
Yeah, for Marvel, everything is canon.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
anyway.
but Nintendo is really, really crafty about some of those things.
Yeah.
In that they will very pointedly keep their mouths shut about theories because they enjoy having all of the fans theorize about things.
It's free advertising.
They don't
to
take a
certain
stance
extent.
on things sometimes. They just ignore it.
Yeah. Why we'll get more people making more videos and they'll play our games more, and also it's fun. Who cares, you know?
One of the interesting things about Breath of the Wild, there are some things on the map in Breath of the Wild, some ruins and stuff that are not marked. They're not labeled.
Yeah.
They're nothing. All right. And I've actually done some digging, and Nintendo has never said anything about it. But I believe one of the sets of ruins is the original Kakariko Village.
Okay.
I believe there's a set of ruins that's the Snow Peak ruins from Twilight Princess. I think those are there. I think these things are there. I believe there's the ruins that are the original Temple of Time, because the Temple of Time has had 2 or 3 different locations. I think there are ruins for the original in the game.
That's cool. So there's ruins for the original and like a different one and things like that.
Right. But they're not labeled.
Right.
There's nothing on the map, and Nintendo has said nothing about it.
That sounds super fun to me as a designer. Or I'm not a designer, obviously, but if I were one, to just like fun little like hints and nods and stuff to put in there, where it's just shows your love for the series, as well as just it'll feed it's food for the theorists, you know?
Well, not to mention Nintendo's ability to listen to the theorists and say, you know what, that one was really good.
Sure.
Yeah, that one's true. He got it. He did it. Wow, clever guy. That one. He did it. You know.
Send him a free copy of the next game.
Yeah,
you did it.
The Snow Peak Ruins thing is really interesting, because I actually found the location, and it's in an area where there's a mountain back in the background and everything. And I looked at the screenshot from Twilight Princess, and that exact mountain is in the background.
Oh, that's cool. That's real. So it's like a literal location that you're seeing there in both spots.
Yes,
that's very cool. Okay, I have a little bit of a cheeky question here.
Okay.
Do they try to fit in any like other Nintendo IP that Link crosses over with, whether it be like Hyrule Warriors or Smash Brothers or anything like that? Like, is there any point where they mention, you know, a large gorilla that turns out to be Donkey Kong or anything like that? Like, do they try to weave in any of these crossovers?
Here's the plumber of Kakariko Village.
Not in Breath of the Wild. They have done it in the past.
They have done it in the past.
I mean, there's plenty of Mario references.
Ocarina of Time has a stained glass window with Mario in it.
Right, there's that. There's plenty of references in. Yeah, you can. The mask salesman in Majora's Mask has Mario.
Yeah, that's right.
On his pack. Yeah, there's plenty of Mario references. That's for sure.
Yeah, so those little things, but I don't think there's anything in Breath of the Wild. Yeah, there might be some amiibo DLC kind of stuff, which is
so that's my question.
Kind of thing.
These things are in there. Mario is in there unquestionably. Do they try to weave that lore in for any reason? Do they try to actually say, okay,
this is a relic from World 1-2?
That's something that Pixar lore people do. Like, there is a fan agreed upon theory that all the Pixar movies are in one shared world, and that's how they're able to reference one another, and that's why Sully is on the wall of the witch in Brave, and you know, etc., and all of these things actually weave together into a singular timeline. So I was wondering if Legend of Zelda theorists tried to do any of the same thing. So
no, Zelda theory is a little bit more pure than that.
That's smart, because the lengths that Pixar theorists have to go through to
there's a lot of
match
you got to jump
things,
through.
man.
You got to do a lot of stretching.
There's a literal like, and then the entire world ended and evolution re-began, and that's when the Cars world began.
That's when they became cars.
Yeah, literally, that's when everybody became cars. That's how that works in that one. So. But
and Nintendo's a little more open-minded too, because they have, I think they've come out and said that Hey, just because we printed a timeline doesn't mean you have to believe in that timeline. Make up your own if you want.
Yeah, at the end of the day,
Absolutely.
it's for fun.
That's what the
Funsies.
word headcanon exists for, right? Like it's the stuff
Yeah,
that
and there
you
are
make
plenty
up.
of people who say they've made a better timeline than what Nintendo made. So, whatever.
All right, I have a question. Okay, can we get to Tears of the Kingdom? The
Sure,
big,
sure.
you know,
Let's make
I'm
this
super
happen.
pumped. I'm going to ignore all of my earthly responsibilities. My child will not know who I am for a couple weeks. Tears of the Kingdom, lore wise, story wise, I mean, I guess, what are you expecting, and what are you hoping for? Some specific new information or something to be? I know I've seen the word the Zonai a whole lot, but I have no
Yep,
idea what
yep.
that
The
is.
Zonai are
So
essential. I'm just
okay,
praying that the rapture doesn't happen before I get to finish it.
just give
Lord,
me
if you
like
could
3
just
days,
stall
Lord.
Just one more game, God. One more.
One
just
more.
a few more. Come on.
If I predict that
5 more
it'll be
minutes.
if I predict it'll be this day, then it can't be based
Right,
on
yeah. No man knows the day or the hour, so I know the hour is going to be.
Right. All right.
got him.
So for here on out, this potentially huge spoilers for Tears of the Kingdom, right?
Yeah.
And there was the game has been leaked, leaked a couple of days ago. There are potential actual stuff,
I
actual
would
stuff out there.
appreciate none of that to be discussed.
I haven't looked at it. But the moment I heard that the game was leaked, I stopped reading and watching everything.
Yeah.
Same
I'm okay with potential. Like, here's my theory. Oh,
Right.
it happened to be right, but
So
I
the
don't.
last thing that I watched was some of the gameplay. They invited some the influencers to do some gameplay. I watched that. That's the last thing I know. The trailers, that and theory stuff leading up to the leak. I haven't seen anything past the leak. So
Sure.
Potential spoilers with all that in mind.
Yeah.
The Zonai were an ancient race of warriors that's present everywhere in Breath of the Wild. Lots of ruins everywhere. You get Zonai the barbarian armor is Zonai armor in Origin. The Farron region, which is south of the castle, where lots of woods, sort of a rainforest kind of jungle. There's lots and lots of Zonai architecture and ruins there. In fact, one of the springs, I think it's the Spring of Power, is this big giant like serpent head right there at the opening of the spring. That's a Zonai feature. That's all Zonai stuff. The mazes, the labyrinths that you have to go through, those are Zonai in Origin. The Typhlo ruins, which is this area that's shrouded in darkness. That's just perpetual darkness. Those are Zonai ruins as well. So the Zonai factor very heavily in Tears of the Kingdom. So we're getting all of this backstory of the Zonai. In fact, the new race that has been revealed in the trailers is quite certainly going to be the Zonai race that we've seen already in the trailers. And we get a new class of enemies called constructs, which are basically these little robotic entities that are held together by energy, and they're called Zonai constructs. There's a crafting system that's going to happen that is made possible through Zonai abilities. So a lot of the Sheikah Slate abilities is going to be replaced with some Zonai type abilities. So in the trailer, something happens to Link's arm. It kind of gets eaten up, whatever, by Ganondorf's malice when Ganondorf is resurrected. And he gets it repaired basically with Zonai technology, more or less. And so he's got these Zonai technological powers that he can do with his hand. So Zonai is huge in Tears of the Kingdom. We're getting all of that.
Okay.
So Tears of the Kingdom, if we're going to get into the lore and the story, Nintendo was very hesitant to release the name of the game because they were afraid the name of the game was going to be too much of a spoiler for the story. And when they released the name of the game, everybody was like, Tears of the Kingdom, what kind of spoiler is that?
Yeah.
I saw a theory that it was like they had planned to release the name of it at a certain point, and then Queen Elizabeth died, and they thought that saying Tears of the Kingdom would be too like on the nose or like too like heartbreaking or whatever.
Yeah.
I thought was funny.
I don't
think that was
Zelda theorists really aren't in that camp.
Yeah, fair enough. They're not a lot of Anglophiles.
We think Nintendo didn't. It wasn't about the title. It was about the logo.
Oh,
It was about the logo, which is this Ouroboros logo of the snakes eating their own tail. So, which is an Eastern symbol. One snake eating its own tail. Except this is two. This is two.
yeah. Okay.
Okay. All right. And so this whole theory, and I think this theory is actually going to be really, really strong. This might actually be what this part of the story of this is. If you take that symbol is a symbol of the rebirth and the cycle of life. Okay, and so you've got two of them here, where one is eating the tail of the other, and that one is eating the tail of the first one.
Right.
Okay, and so what we think is that Tears of the Kingdom is both the sequel to Breath of the Wild and the prequel to Skyward Sword.
Whoa.
So it's a cyclical timeline.
It's a cyclical timeline. That's exactly right.
Okay.
Whoa.
Interesting.
So, okay, let's pretend that's true. How do you add more games into a cyclical timeline? Do you just start stuffing them in between other things?
Look. The original Great Calamity that happened in the Breath of the Wild was. Anybody want to guess how long before Breath of the Wild? 10,000 years.
Okay.
Oh, there was plenty of time. Okay, that's
we
fair.
can insert as many games as you want in a 10,000-year block.
That's fair. That's fair.
Anytime they have a new idea for a new mechanic, that's when a new timeline event happens.
Right.
I'm going to break just a real quick side note here. Did you ever play the game Swords of Ditto, Zyro?
No, I don't.
This is
no,
an indie game that we played this, Fox, Swords of Ditto. And it's mildly referential. It's got a very similar gameplay to Link to the Past, and it's mildly referential as you are the legendary hero trying to overcome this great evil, and the legendary hero is reborn every 100 years. But the interesting thing about Swords of Ditto is that if you die, you don't respawn. You are the next legendary hero 100 years later. So your respawn is 100 years in the future, and the world has changed around you a little bit, and you are the new legendary hero that is going to go and try and defeat, the ancient evil. And it's a really interesting premise, and it goes pretty well. That just made me think of, like, you could just say every 100 years or every 500 years, Link is reborn or whatever, the cycle continues.
Right.
And in 10,000 years, that's all the games you'll ever
You
get.
got a couple decades of games.
So, man. Okay, but
so here's some of our proof. Here's some of our evidence.
Yeah.
Okay.
The Zonai constructs look an awful lot like the ancient robots from Skyward Sword.
All right.
We have the reemergence of the Sky Islands that suddenly appeared.
Oh, that's right.
Which
Islands.
which is Skyward Sword, right?
Yeah.
So the Skyward Sword actually does have a backstory in which the goddess Hylia, gets all the people together and they go and defeat Demise. We know that from trailers that Link is going to be bringing the people of Hyrule together, and you're actually going to have companions that will come along with you and fight with you in certain instances. And so there's this sort of banding together of the people of Hyrule to fight the monsters that we know from the trailers is going to happen. There's a suspicion that Zelda is going to basically become the goddess Hylia.
Okay.
And then lead the people into this rebellion against Ganondorf. And in one of the trailers, it looks like Ganondorf might be giving in to the malice and transforming into Demise.
I'm looking up Demise right now. Yeah, I typed in Demise, and the top search result was Demise Tears of the Kingdom. Interesting. Right. I'm looking at this right now. Yeah, and I see exactly the frame that you're talking about here. Yeah. So you said not to make sure that you didn't skip over this. So then talk a
Yep.
little bit more about the goddess Hylia and Demise here. Like, who are they? Like, what is their sort of storyline here? What's going on with these people? These deities.
Well, all we know really from the backstory of Skyward Sword is that Demise was an ancient evil. That's all we know.
Oh, fun.
Okay.
Yeah,
Simple
yeah.
enough.
And then Hylia was the goddess that descended and came down to defend the people of Hyrule, and then she forsook her divine form and took on a flesh form in order to do that, and became Zelda, basically. So Zelda is the incarnation of Hylia. So the idea is that Tears of the Kingdom is going to see that flip again, and Zelda is going to ascend into her divine form and deal with the newly, created Demise who came out of Ganondorf.
So I have probably one last question, and I think
Mhm.
though this is a pretty important one, and that is, where does the Triforce come into this? You know, the Triforce has kind of been the staple of Legend of Zelda since its inception. You know, and then they've always said, you know, that Ganon represents the
Power.
power, Zelda is wisdom, and Link is courage.
That's right.
And so, like, where do these come into this lore, and how do they play into? Because the Triforce isn't in all of the games; it's only in a few of them.
It's suspiciously missing from Breath of the Wild.
Yeah. So how does it play into all of these things?
No, I don't know how this is going to work out with Tears of the Kingdom. Now, the Triforce is seen one time in Breath of the Wild. Is when at the end, at the end, spoilers. At the end, when Zelda seals the Dark Beast skin,
right.
Yeah.
she puts her hand up, and you see all three segments of it light up. And normally, when the power Triforce is activated, only the segment that they have lights up. But in that particular moment, the entire Triforce lit up on her hand. The entire thing's lit up. So it's my theory, and other theorists don't completely agree, that Zelda, at that point in Breath of the Wild, was in possession of the entire Triforce. How that's going to play out in Tears of the Kingdom, I have no idea.
Interesting. And so what about in the other games? Like, do they talk about how the Triforce was created, how it was split in this way, where like each one represents each a section of it?
They do. I think you get some of that in Twilight Princess. You probably, I don't think you get it. You might get it in Ocarina of Time. So the three goddesses are the ones who sent the Triforce, and the idea is that if you're pure of heart and you touch the Triforce, you're able to make a wish, and the goddesses will grant your wish. That's kind of how that goes. If you are not pure of heart and you touch the Triforce, it will shatter. So that's what we've seen, is Ganon has been trying to get the Triforce, and every time he gets close, it shatters. It splits into a million pieces. That's the premise of Link to the Past. That's the premise of the original Legend of Zelda, that Ganon has shattered the Triforce, and Link has to reassemble it so that he would have the power to defeat Ganon. We see this wish kind of ability used twice, I believe. We've seen it used twice. We saw it used in Skyward Sword. Link made the wish on the Triforce near the end, and the main part of the Sky Island with the statue on it broke and fell and sealed the beast version of Demise in that timeline, and then he had to go back and actually fight Demise. But he made that wish to make that part of the island fall. We saw it in action in Wind Waker. The king beat Ganondorf to the Triforce there at the end, and made the wish for Hyrule to be flooded there at the end, which set up the final battle.
Got it. Man, that's cool. All of this. Okay. Well, I have the random side question here then. Because I don't know. Has it been confirmed whether Tears of the Kingdom is going to be before or after the events of Breath of the Wild? I've heard both.
It is after. It's a sequel.
It's confirmed to be after. Okay, cool.
If you've not played Breath of the Wild, I would highly recommend playing it before playing Tears of the Kingdom.
Yes.
For
also because
many
it's one of the
reasons.
greatest games ever played.
Yeah.
For me. It's
Yes.
a spectacular game. Yes. Yeah. I'm so excited.
And there's going to be so much story element and stuff that you're going to miss. You're not going to, there's context that's not going to make sense for things in Tears of the Kingdom. You need to play Breath of the Wild first.
What about the DLC? Was there any story stuff in the Breath of the Wild DLC?
The DLC was all about the champions, really.
Right.
Yeah, there was some champion stuff, and then there was some gameplay challenges.
Yeah, it's not really pertinent to the overall arching story.
You did get a motorcycle, so that's cool.
That was cool.
It's a precursor to the vehicle crafting, I think, in this one. But
I had a horse named Fox, and I rode it off a cliff on accident. That's a true story. So
it's like in real life.
But the co-crafting thing is one of those instances where it looks like Nintendo was kind of watching what was going on in Breath of the Wild and said, you know what?
Let's lean into it.
We're gonna lean into this.
Yeah.
We're gonna give you all the crafting you could ever want.
Remember Banjo-Kazooie 3, Nuts and Bolts? What if that was good?
No, not Banjo-Kazooie. Banjo 3E isn't a thing.
No, Banjo-Kazooie 3 was Banjo-Kazooie Nuts and Bolts, and it was the vehicle craft. Yeah, it was bad. It's okay if you don't remember it or didn't play it. It's fine. It was on the 360. It was bad.
Anyway, thank you so much, Zyro. We genuinely appreciate you being here explaining all this to us. We are so excited for Breath of the Wild, or for Tears of the Kingdom. It is going to be a spectacular game. With that being said, though, we are going to transition here into kind of toward the end of our podcast, in which we talk about just what we've been up to recently, where each of us have chosen some things to talk about, the shows we've been watching, books we've been reading, movies we've been seeing, video games we've been playing, whatever else. And so, yeah, Fox, what have you been up to, man?
I watched the first two Rocky movies, not for the first time, but I watched the first two, and obviously they're both very good. They're so good, in fact, that it feels like it feels like Rocky 1 was an incredible movie. It won the best picture. It made Sylvester Stallone his career. He wrote it it was great. And so it feels like, why a sequel? The ending was really good in the first one. The sequel genuinely feels like a really good continuation of the story, where it then has like the spoilers for obviously a 50-year-old movie now, 40-year-old movie, but he then actually wins at the end of 2, and you get that full-on like victory in both life and in the sport, that kind of thing. And it like the ending was so good to 2 that I legitimately just I'm not going to watch the other ones.
Oh, really?
Like the other ones are fine. Like 4 is fun. I mean, they get worse, I don't think, but it just feels such a satisfying ending to 2 that watching any of the other 4 of them, even before Creed, like just feels like it would weaken the movies. I will say that it is very clear what era, even beyond just like the style of filming and the quality, the era of writing that Rocky came from, because the scene in which he and Adrian, they go on their first date, and it's nice and pleasant and romantic and just like fun, and then they go back to his apartment, and he essentially like ignores her like she wants to leave, and he ignores that and then basically coerces her into like kissing him. It's extremely cringy to watch. Like, and then they're just like romantic and in a relationship, and then they get married into. It's just like this is hard to watch.
Again, that was the time though. You're right. Like just how the time frame of
it very much feels like a different time in how relationships should work, and it's hard to watch now.
I will say that as far as the other movies go, it's tough because movie 1's like a 9 out of a 10, 9.5 out of 10. Movie 2 is like an 8.5 out of 10. So when you get to the others, and they're like solid 7s, they really are solid 7s, but they also don't compare to the other films. So
right.
I enjoy all 5 Rocky films. I haven't seen the Creed ones. I hear they're very good as well, though.
Well, yeah, especially if you want to know the full, like if you want to watch Creed and know the backstory, 4 is where that really takes off. Well, because Apollo Creed dies in 4,
right,
at the hands of Ivan Drago, and then Ivan Drago's son is in Creed 2, as it's a whole thing. But So, but as far like I just like this feels good, satisfying. I'm gonna go do something. I'm not
Yeah,
gonna watch the
that's
whole
fair.
rest.
That's fair. I watched Dungeons and Dragons, the movie.
Hey,
And have you seen it, Zyro?
No, I
Okay,
haven't.
I
I've heard
won't
it's good.
spoil anything. We won't spoil anything. Fox already talked about it a little bit. He said it's very, very good. I agree. It's really good. But the reason I do want to talk about it specifically is because I want to, again, just talk about how important every role in filmmaking is. Because honestly, to me, this movie is a 7.5 out of 10 that gets elevated to an 8.5, 9 because of the casting director.
Hmm.
Every single role is so perfectly played by the actor, but yet every single actor is not necessarily a great actor, like Michelle Rodriguez or Justice Smith. Like, these guys aren't known for their incredible acting skills, but they are so perfect in these roles that every single role is elevated into something
Yeah.
greater than its parts, and therefore the movie is overall just better for it. I laughed out loud at some points. I got major dad feels at other points. Like, this movie is so shockingly good. I can't remember the actress who plays Safine, but I can't remember her name, but she's in a different show I watched called Shadow and Bone. She's Genya.
Sophia Lillis. I'm looking at her right now.
Yeah. She was so well done in her role, acted it so well, played so well, that I saw her face and I said, I recognize her. I know I recognize her, but I, for the life of me, couldn't even come close to placing. And when I found out who it was, I was shocked, because she so much becomes the character she is in the movie. Like, man, I'm so impressed with this movie all across. Guys, go see Dungeons and Dragons.
It's great. It's great.
It's a great movie. It really is. What you got, Zyro? What have you been up to, man?
Okay. Well, movie wise, let's see. I recently rewatched Prince of Egypt with my daughter. She didn't remember it very much. Rewatched Prince of Egypt.
It's a
And
family
was
favorite
just
here.
reminded how innovative and groundbreaking that particular movie was for being a 20-year-old movie. It's 25 years.
Yeah.
25-year-old movie. And I mean, she was impressed by it. And when you think of the competition that was put out the exact same year, I think it was Bug's Life and Mulan. And the quality that they poured into that is just unmatched. I was just reminded just how good that was.
It is. The music is incredible. I think it's
Absolutely.
Hans Zimmer who does the score for it, and he's incredible, obviously. And like, I talk to my kids, and my kids love movies like I do, and they love this film. But I'm able to like watch that and be like, hey, remember the Grandmaster from Thor Thor Ragnarok? That's the voice of Aaron. That's Jeff Goldblum. Hey, remember the witch in Stardust,
Stardust.
the witch in Stardust, as well as the mom in Ant-Man. That's what is Zipporah. That's Zipporah, yeah. Like, and just like being able to go through all these people. Val Kilmer doesn't act anymore, so I wouldn't be able to talk about Moses himself, but like being able to like tell all these people, like, it is a star-studded cast, man. This movie is so good, and music is incredible. Yeah, it's a family favorite. It really is.
I've been getting the deluxe editions from the library, so I'm 15 volumes into Berserk, the classic manga.
I have the entire anime.
Man, it is like, I've been reading a lot of manga, and whenever Berserk becomes available at the library, I am the most excited out of any of it. It is incredibly, like, the art is just so incredibly detailed. Like, I do not understand how some manga artists put out a chapter each week, especially when you get to the detailed levels of like manga, where it's just like you have to be just running yourself ragged doing this. And it's actually true sometimes and it's unfortunate. But the story, like, it starts off with just kind of this brief, like, here's this wandering swordsman, and then after a little while it kind of does this huge like flashback for the next 13 chapters, and you're like, what just happened? Why is he a kid now? But then once you get to the payoff of it, you're like, this was necessary, this was incredible. The whole like fate and there's just so many things about it. I mean, I'm not, obviously not anybody who knows about manga in any detail is going to know that Berserk is one of the best. But I will say this, if you were like me, who was curious about manga and not super like into some of the modern day kind of style, if you tried My Hero Academia and didn't found it wanting, or even a little earlier like Naruto or something, go back farther. Go back farther, try out Berserk. I mean, obviously there are also different age ranges for certain things. Berserk is a adult oriented manga. It is not for small children. If your kids want to read manga, do not, I won't say don't. It's up to you, but check it out first before they read it.
Hey, as a parent, I'll say don't. All right, don't let your kids.
It's up to parents, but you should not. I think it is important to let to read it, and then make a decision. And it will be very unlikely that you let your kids read it. I'll say it that way. But Berserk is awesome. I've been reading so much manga. It's honestly getting too much from the library. It's taking away from other responsibilities. But Berserk is really great.
I haven't read the manga. You make it sound like the manga is a continuation, like the anime itself is a brief part of what the entire manga is. So the manga
is still being written.
The anime itself begins with wandering swordsman, missing an arm, real big tough guy, and then it does this flashback, and the anime is the entire story of how he got from
it's the golden age,
yeah, from there to when he is wandering brutal swordsman
confrontation
guy.
with the god hand.
And this is 40-year-old story, maybe a 30-year-old story, whatever.
30-year-old, yeah.
But
I just got past that.
I'm still not going to spoil it because it's so good. I don't want to ruin it for anybody.
Again, the manga is still being written as it is still active.
Go read, watch Berserk, adults out there. It's so good. It is. I have been reading The Dawn of Yangchen. I told you guys about the Rise and Shadow of Kyoshi, the books by F.C. Yi. These are in the Avatar: The Last Airbender world, and it's about previous avatars. The Rise and Shadow of Kyoshi books were great, really good. Where The Last Airbender, the demographic was like 10 and 12-year-old, and then Legend of Korra was like 15, 16-year-old. These ones are clearly like young adult, 18, 19-year-old age there. There's a lot more serious topics addressed. It's a lot more brutal in the combat, particularly with the Kyoshi ones, which Kyoshi is known for being like the brutal avatar that was just like, gotta kill some folks sometimes. Sometimes that guy's gotta die. That was what Kyoshi's known for. The books reflect that and go into why. All that say that Yangchen is really interesting because up until these books released, Dawn of Yangchen released just this past year, and there's a sequel coming out that has not yet come out. Yangchen is known in the lore as the best avatar a lot of times. Like, she was the perfect one. She did everything right, whatever else. And at the end of Shadow of Kyoshi, you learn that she was not as great as a lot of people think she was for some specific reasons, which I won't spoil. But we're now getting into the Dawn of Yangchen, and you guys know me, I really, for whatever reason, enjoy political fiction. This immediately jumps into like political fiction where she's going into this area where it's being run by these governors, but the governors are running it almost like crime lords, and they're really exploiting the people, and she's having to go in and navigate these politics while still trying to be the good kind avatar that does all the right things, but at the same time she is like hired her first companion who is a criminal, and she is his spy, and it's about them trying to navigate all this to try and fix the thing in there. And of course it is a young adult novel, so they think each other's cute, and that whole thing is going on as well. But FCE is a great author. He's really easy to read. It's really good stuff, and especially if you're a fan of the Avatar lore, it's good stuff. I really enjoy it.
Yeah, I haven't been reading anything for fun in a year and a half now, 2 years almost.
But I mean, anything else? Have you been doing anything? Anything else?
Oh gosh, all this reading for my doctoral stuff. That's all I do right now.
That's fair.
I got a stack of about 8 books over there that I got to read for this summer. But yeah, just doing work on that and really just kind of plugging away, make sure to get my research ready to do my dissertation.
Nice.
And things like that. So yeah, that's it.
Well, Fox, very boring. What do you got for the end of it?
I've been replaying Okami, because I like Okami, and it is very Zelda-like. So it kind of feels like a a little bit of a taste of Zelda before Tears of the Kingdom. I don't remember. I'm also just trying, like, kind of cruising through it. Want to get the platinum trophy, and you know, I've played it several times. I know the story. It's also not like a super in depth. You know, you're a wolf god who's fighting against the evil dragon god. Anyway, I don't. The one thing I want to say is I don't remember if this was the case the last time I played it or not. But at some point they added the ability to skip cutscenes. And Okami is a game that came from the era of games where they didn't have full voice acting in some, like, some games did. It's a PS2 game, so obviously voice acting was a thing already. But in some games, instead of like voice acting, or it wasn't silent, it was just gibberish. Yes, it was like Banjo-Kazooie had this kind of thing where it's just noises that represented the words that they were speaking. And it's incredibly annoying.
Because it's long cutscenes.
It's long cutscenes. It's annoying. Like, your main companion is this tiny little person, like this little like flea-sized person, and their voice is incredibly annoying. And so the ability to skip cutscenes is just it is a godsend, like, to enjoying this game. Like, I honestly, if I couldn't, I would have started the game remembering how much I loved it, got an hour into it, and then said, you know what, I'll play something else. I've already, like, but since I can skip cutscenes, I'm still playing it. So it's so nice. It just needs to be mandatory in the future. All games have to have the ability to skip cutscenes, regardless of your voiceover style. Like, it's just such a nice quality of life addition.
So I have been watching a few TV shows. Okay, cool. I want to make sure I said that one correctly. And I want to bring up all three of them briefly to compare comedy is really what I want to go for here.
Sure.
Marvelous Mrs. Maisel is in its final season. Ted Lasso is in its final season. And then, just as like a for funsies thing that my wife and I saw, we started watching Kunk on Earth.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if you guys know Kunk on Earth, but it's a British comedian doing a historical documentary, like basically like a Planet Earth type documentary. But she is comedian, but she's getting actual real specialists on to talk about these things. Mm-hmm. And basically the note that they give them is take everything seriously. Take it all seriously. And so it's been really interesting watching these three shows to see what would be considered on one side like the Jewish comedy of Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. You know, it's all about Jewish families. It's all this really quick-witted, fast, talking. Everybody's like really witty and clever and quippy, and it's hilarious, and I love it. And it's about comedy in and of itself. Like, it's self-referential in this way, and I laugh so hard. But the comedy is so clear. Like, it's such obvious comedy that it's a show about comedy, and like it's referential in that way. Where on the entire flip side of thing, you have Kunk on Earth, which is this British comedy of everything is so dry and
super deadpan.
Nobody admits that it's comedy. Everybody,
so funny though.
But it's also so funny, and I'm like dying laughing. And watching these two shows alongside each other has been this really interesting look into comedy itself and the different styles of writing, the different ways of presenting comedy. And then smack in the middle here is Ted Lasso, which is also comedy, and it can be quippy sometimes, and other times it's very deadpan. But what I love most about Ted Lasso is it's relentlessly positive. Like, even when negative things happen, it somehow works out to make you smile in the end, and the way Ted addresses it, or in the way it resolves, or whatever it is. Like, you don't really end up hating anybody except for the guy who
Rupert,
except for Rupert. He's the only one that you really dislike.
He's basically the one villain.
Right. But everybody else, even when they do bad things, they're redeemed eventually, and you fall in love with them all over again, or you fall in love with them. And so these three shows I've been watching, and we're all watching at the same time, and they're all so good and so funny, and for entirely different reasons. And it's made me become really interested in the art of comedy in and of itself, and taking a look of it. And then there's like parody. You guys know me, I love Mel Brooks, and seeing the comedy of parody in Mel Brooks, and just all these comparisons of comedy itself. And it's been really cool, really interesting watching all these together.
This is supposed to be the last season of Ted Lasso. There's potential for like a spinoff or something. I do hope that I had the idea of a spinoff of where it's like each episode is a day in the life of one of the actual players on the team on Richmond, and they all like meet up at the end and to do a thing, but it's just like their day and how they intertwined without knowing it or something like that. I think that'd be really fun because I love like each character on the team gets a little bit of focus sometimes,
Right.
but they're kind of just side characters there for jokes every once in a while.
That'd be cool. That'd be
I'm
really
hoping
cool.
they do more. Yeah.
Well, that's all I got.
Same.
All right.
Unless y'all want to talk about the Mandalorian.
Mandalorian was real good. Yeah, why not?
Well,
I mean,
kind of good.
Oh,
what? Oh, I'll throw hands right now, man. What? I love
Over
the
the internet.
Mandalorian.
I'll throw my
Look,
hand.
I'm gonna be the dissenter here. I enjoy Mandalorian, but the writing is starting to get kind of tiring.
Oof.
It's a show about side quests, and even the main quest in this last season felt like a side quest.
That is 100% fair. Yes, I loved it because of the character dynamics among these side quests. To me, it felt like almost like a D&D thing where, yeah, sure, there's a lot of like side questing going on, but the character dynamics while they're going on these questing and whatnot is super fun and really good. And of course, obviously, the relationship between Din Djarin and Grogu, the Mandalorian, and Baby Yoda has such a satisfying ending, and I loved it. But I also love that this season they returned to a little bit more of the Western form, and specifically in the first episode, they leaned heavily into the old Western thing. But no, I do agree that the side questy thing is very much what's going on.
The best moment of the entire third season was Ahmed Best rescuing Grogu.
Oh, yes.
Was freaking Jar Jar Binks having his moment.
Jar Jar Binks
and his
shows up.
redemption.
He's not actually Jar Jar Binks, no.
Oh.
Ahmed Best?
I would have watched it if it was actually Jar Jar Binks.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't Jar Jar Binks.
He was a Jedi in it. I won't spoil anything, but he was a Jedi in there.
Yeah, but Ahmed Best was the original Jar Jar Binks.
Right. He was the voice of Jar Jar Binks. So
right.
Okay, now I get it. It's the actor.
So you get they bring him back and give him this redemption role.
Gotcha. That's great. I like that.
Yeah.
So, well, everybody, thank you so much for listening. We genuinely appreciate each and every one of you being here today. Thank you again to Legend of Zyro for joining us here today.
Thanks for having me anytime. You
can check out his stuff, his author's work at kevinnewsom.com. That's KEVENNEWSOME.com. And you can check out his written works, or you can go check out his stuff on Twitch, where he's streaming a bunch of Legend of Zelda lore stuff, as well as catching up on the games. That's twitch.tv/Legend of Zyro.
We'll be doing Tears of the Kingdom next week.
Tears of the Kingdom next week. There you go, y'all. Man, I need to finish Hogwarts Legacy so I can start streaming Tears of the Kingdom as well. Like I got to get that game out of the way. It's so good, it's so fun, but also I'm ready to be done with it. Thank you to what's the name? Granger. Want to say a big thank you to Granger for the use of our theme song. All my friends have Wi-Fi, and so do most of my neighbors. Off of the album Dear Sam. Thank you, Granger, for the use of that song.
Yeah. Hey, remember. This podcast is part of Save Point Ministries, led by Des here. And you have the opportunity to support this ministry either through subscribing to Twitch or going to the website, savepointministries.com.
That's right.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Save Point, yeah. And subscribing, it would be great just in general for the ministry itself, but also we have a specific goal of just being able to restart putting the podcast back up on our RSS feed, so we can get up on Spotify and Apple Podcasts and things like that once again. So we would really appreciate it if you have the means and the if it works for you. If not, we do really appreciate you being here and listening and just kind of being a part of the conversation, whatever capacity that takes place. Thank you.
One more time, guys. Thank you. We thank Zyro. I forgot. Was there anything else I was supposed to say in this section? No, I'm just closing out now, huh?
Whatever. Just
that's right. I don't know how.
Not this
is like our 300th podcast.
You just want to improvise a quick little rap or something? That'd be fine.
A haiku.
Yeah, sure.
Here's a haiku. Ready?
Oh no.
Always remember that saved games save lives. We'll see you guys next time. Bye.
Yes, doesn't know what a haiku is.
All right, I don't have to hit stop on anything. That's the
Yeah.
end of the podcast.
That's
There
the end of
we
the
go. We did it.
podcast.
We did a podcast, everybody. That's awesome. Hey, Wandering Knight. Boom. Yep. Boom. We finished it. So good. Again, so chat, we're back now. We're back here talking. If any of you guys, I don't know if anybody's left in chat. Oh, we got a few people in here. If anybody has any questions for Zyro that we weren't able to address while we were podcasting, or if we have any thoughts or anything else, go ahead and toss that in. Looks like we didn't get any chats during the podcast itself. But we'll.
I did have a question that we didn't get to for
go ahead.
time. How important is collecting all the poop in Breath of the Wild? The Korok seeds. Is there the Korok ending or
poop? That's
Oh yeah, your reward for collecting all 900 is literally a pile of poop.
Is it seriously?
Google
Yeah, go look it
Hester's-
up. I'm not joking at all.
Google
I really hope we
Hester's
can get
gift.
more poop in the sequel.
What am I Googling, Zyro?
Hestu. Hestu's gift.
Hestu. Yep, Hestu's gift.
Hestu's gift.
Yeah, I got it all. I 100% of that game.
I think I'm a collectible fiend, and I think I got to like 500, and I was like, "This is too much. I'm done."
There it is. The
It's
gift
just
of
Nintendo
friendship given by
trolling
Hestu.
people.
It smells pretty bad. What?
Yep,
Does it?
and it's useless.
That's all there is to it.
It
That's
doesn't do anything.
It's just a giant troll.
I really respect Nintendo for it. I love it.
Wow.
Koroks are back. Koroks are back in Tears of the Kingdom, by the way.
Yes,
You will be collecting Koroks again.
I absolutely will be.
You can buy 3D printed on Etsy Korok seeds and Hestu's gift.
Yeah,
Of course you can.
that'd be a great officially licensed merch. Like officially licensed. This is official Hestu poop.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh man. All right.
Oh,
Looks like
and
they're
related to that, by the way, one of the mysteries of Tears of the Kingdom is that the Great Deku Tree is missing.
Oh, interesting.
Ooh.
Maybe we'll need more of Hestu's gift to act as
It's
fertilizer
I don't know.
Hestu's fertilizer.
to
I
plant
have no
the
idea. But I do know this, that the Great Deku Tree was not in the same place it was in Skyward Sword. So if they're going to link it to Skyward Sword, they've got to move the tree.
Oh,
How are they going to move the tree?
I don't know, but it's not where it's supposed to be in the trailers.
are the Sky
missing.
Islands? Are they part of the land that has risen up, or are they like new? Because if it's on one of the Sky Islands, you just move the island.
I don't think they're part of the land. I think they're
Okay.
actual subset of places up there. You're able to get to them in Twilight Princess. You're able to get to one at one point.
Gotcha.
And there's this cloud barrier that got put into place prior to Skyward Sword that creates a barrier between the land and the sky world. And so the idea is that Ganondorf does something that destroys the cloud barrier.
Okay, and you're able to access that. I see.
Mhm.
Cool. Okay.
Got it. Well, then I think that's going to do it for us, chat. Thank you guys for being here. Thank you again, Zyro, for hanging out with us. We're going to call it a stream here, y'all. One more time, if you are looking for a church, if you are someone who does not have a... hang on, let me put this in the chat here. If you're somebody who does not have a home church community and you're looking for some people to be able to plug in with and a community to join, as well as people who share some of your nerdy hobbies, that's us here at Save Point Ministries. We help connect people to nerd-friendly churches, places where you can share hobbies. I always love being able to find somebody who to get pretty niche even. Like I found a guy who's really into anime, who there was a youth pastor who also really enjoys the same anime. And I'm like, oh, here you go, guys, like connect, hang out. So if you're somebody who's looking for a church, we would love to help you plug into a place. You can just head over on that link in there, savepointministries.com, and you can click on the find a church link. With that being said, we want to say we love that each and every one of you were here today, but I always want you to remember that there's a church out there that would love it if you were there. We'll see you guys next time. Bye.
Bye.